I'm here this morning, it's the 13th of November on a farm in County Kilkenny, and I suppose cattle housing has started, probably the latest ever. You know, we all enjoyed the month of October and it was a great lift to get, but nevertheless I think the day has come. It's time to put cattle in, and there's a number of things I suppose that are important to focus on over the next few weeks. At the best of times, margin in cattle finishing is always tight, so it's very important that we get the finer points correct and things are done correctly. I suppose the first thing to start with in housing is to look at simple issues like the environment, the airspace, the stocking density, the availability of water and things like that. And when you're looking at stocking density, you know, the objective is not to unsettle cattle during the period, and for a lot of finishing cattle, depending on the system, you will be increasing the weight of the animal by 25 to 40% during the period. So hopefully, you know, that you don't stock them in a way that you have to change it during the period. Then when we start looking at what to do on feed, so the first thing I should say, maybe before we even go there, is it's always advisable to clip the backs. That actually allows a lot of heat to escape from the animal and keeps them in a more comfortable place. You'd like to think when they're coming indoors that they're being housed as healthy cattle. Housing healthy cattle usually means dosing them 4 or 5 weeks before they come in for hoos in particular, so that they have healthy lungs at the starting point and are much less likely to get pneumonia. That said, I suppose if you haven't done that, the second best time to dose them is today. So moving on from there to the feed side, silage quality is a critical part, but we can't change the quality now. The most important thing is to know what that actual quality is. And for every 0.1 you drop, or 1% you drop DMD, that will actually increase your feed requirement for the same performance by 0.2 of a kilo. And just also to put performance into context from a financial point of view, every 0.1 kilo a day you can add extra during the finishing period is worth about €30 to you. And just maybe to finish off on that silage piece, 5 units of DMD down would cost you about €65 over the winter on a finishing beast. Then when it comes to balancing the diet, once you've checked silage quality, generally what we find is the major limiting pieces on performance is first of all the quality itself, secondly how it's balanced, and on a lot of farms, particularly where, you know, there's an ample quantity of homegrown cereal and sugar beet, people tend to overuse those and underbalance them for both fibre and protein, and actually probably oftentimes introduce them too quickly as well. So they're important pieces to watch. As a few general rules, when you start feeding cattle at the beginning, you can start with 2 kgs per day of concentrate, but after that our recommendation would be to increase by 1 kilo over every fourth day is probably best practice. And make sure in the total diet balance, depending on how the silage is analysed, that the protein percentage matches the feed but also the type of animal that are there. As a general rule, the more muscular the cattle are, the higher the protein demand. Bulls require higher protein than steers. Steers require higher protein than heifers. Just right here behind me we have those cattle eating a diet here, and you can see it needs a bit of structure, so we have the fibre piece in there in the form of straw. So particularly where, you know, you've really digestible silages, you're using copious amounts of cereal and beet products and things like that, or indeed you know, high UFL rations, it is important to have some straw in the diet to keep the cattle chewing. So that's maybe a few tips on the feed side. When it comes to the cattle themselves, then I suppose the targets are quite different depending on what kind of cattle you have in there. The highest daily performance will be got from bulls, particularly good continental bulls, and certainly we'll be looking for 1.7 to 1.9 kgs per day there over the run. If we look at good continental steers, like some of the cattle behind me here, we're definitely talking of 1.5 as our target, maybe 1.6. If we go back to the Frisian steer then, Angus, Hereford steer, we're looking very much at a 1.3, maybe 3.5 of a target there. And for those kind of heifers, maybe 1.1. And if you're back into, you know, Jersey crosses and that kind of genetics, you're definitely down under the kilo per day in terms of potential. So, you know, it's really a case of horses for courses. The important thing is to know what they are. The most important thing is, once you've set those targets, look at the feed costs, and our technical beef support people are very good at doing that, because the real currency here with beef cattle is knowing how much it costs to put on 1 kilogram of live weight gain, and to monitor your progress against that. You know, it's not about just about silage, not just about feed. It's, you'll be selling live weight, you'll be selling carcass weight. The two are quite correlated. Know the cost per kilo and know what your targets are, and therefore, and from there you'll know what margins you're likely to have. For further information, you will find most of what I've covered here on our Glanbia Connect site, or it can be had by contacting your business manager, or indeed your branch manager or your local Glanbia representative.